Alone in a foreign hotel, stripped of security and safety, lies a young woman surrounded by strangers. No one is helping her, but instead filming her fragile and erratic state. Magdalena Zuk thought she was going on a relaxing solo vacation, but we dive yet into another hotel horror story. Suicide, homicide, we'll let you decide.
Creep It Real is a podcast where we present our theories of the subjects we cover based on our interest and research. Some material may be graphic and disturbing, so proceed with caution.
I was no nerd in high school. Just kidding.
I was a nerd of some sort, but just not audio visual.
Right. I was a My Chemical Romance nerd. So.
Yeah, I was making my own shirts with writing.
Oh my god, yes. My dad was always so horrified. He was like, I'll buy you nice things. I'm like, ah!
No, I just want to rip up a shirt. I'm going to buy a $2 shirt at the hobby store. I'm going to write like some melodramatic, angsty lyric on it, and then I'm going to rip it up and wear it to school. That was my favorite thing to do. That was really my favorite thing to do.
A $25 band shirt from Hot Topic, may as well cut it up, right?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so today we are talking. Okay, before we start, let's preface this by saying, at least in my case, there was so much of this that I had to translate that some of it sounded straight up dumb. I knew it wasn't correct. Some of the wording and stuff. It was almost funny, really, because it was just clearly so incorrect the way it was worded. But I tried to get a basic idea, and I think that it was all pretty clear as far as that was concerned. So anyway, so today we're covering Magdalena Zuk, I think is how you say her name, her death. So she had purchased tickets 7 days in advance for a vacation in the Egyptian resort town of Marsa Alam as a surprise for her boyfriend for his upcoming birthday. Now, she didn't tell him that she was doing this, and a lot of people point out that the fact that she did it so close to the time whenever they were going to be leaving, that it was a sign that she was kind of having the beginning of a impending mental breakdown, just because people do sometimes make rash decisions on the fly, I guess, whenever that happens.
Yeah.
But her family says that she was a really impulsive person and spontaneous, and this possibly wasn't uncharacteristic for her, according to her family and friends.
Right.
So, her boyfriend's passport, according to everything I read, was set to expire in 6 months. And then according to what I read as well, they said that to go to Egypt, you have to have a passport that's valid for longer than that amount of time. So, if you're going to go to Egypt, your passport needs to be valid for a year, something like that. It's just a longer period of time. It shouldn't be
close to expiration.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I guess. I don't know. I guess they're strict about it. I don't even know if that is 100% the truth. That's what I read. So he could not go with her. They tried to sell their tickets at a discounted rate online or to friends, but they didn't have any takers. And her friends tried to persuade her not to go alone, but she said that she needed vacation from work and she needed relaxation. So she decided to go on the trip alone, which, I know plenty of women that have gone on solo trips to different countries, but I also know that, personally, I'm oh God, I don't know. I feel like it may be really liberating, but it also would be scary at times for sure, I would think.
I think, this day and age, it would be extremely terrifying. I know I probably definitely wouldn't do it.
I know. I just got back from vacation to a place that I've been multiple times, and I would have been pretty, and I'm in a good state of mind, but I would have been it would have sent me into some kind of weird emotional state to be there by myself, I think, even if I had planned on doing it, sort of. Even, because she didn't really plan that, but she had a little bit of time to prepare herself. Still, I don't think, even if you've been there before, I don't think that it can fully prepare you for how much alienation that you might feel, especially if you don't speak the same language as they do. And Magda didn't speak English very well either, so there wasn't a lot of there was a really huge language barrier, essentially, between her and essentially everybody that she came in contact with while she was there. So that would probably be pretty stressful. Either way, The witnesses who saw her on her flight to Egypt and at the airport said that she was acting completely normal. She did nothing out of the usual at that time. So at that point, she was still cool, calm, collected, like acting just like she would normally. And she was then transported to a bus about a half hour away to the Three Corners Equinox Beach Resort where she was staying. One of the accounts I read said that witnesses stated that the first day she was there, she did hang out with another woman who was there by herself. And that once she started acting a little bit odd, once her odd behavior started, the lady decided to start distancing herself from her. And I don't know what to believe, because if there really was someone that was hanging out with her the first day, like, did that lady have something to do with any of this, you know? I guess we haven't really gotten to the point where anything has really happened. Okay, so then later on the first day, other tourists started to note that Magda was acting aggressively and that she didn't want anyone to help her. When people were trying to help her, she didn't want to answer any questions or do anything to help them help her, I guess, is what they were saying. But then at the same time, I also read that they said she was looking for company, so I don't really know.
Well, I feel like that's kind of normal drunk behavior. Not saying that she was drunk because we don't know, but I feel like when people get kind of tipsy, oh, can I help you? Oh, you don't know my life.
Yeah.
Get away from me. And I mean, being a lone woman in a place where you're not like familiar with the language so much or the people, maybe she was a little bit on the defense.
Right.
Who knows?
Right. And also there were witnesses that said that she was having drinks when she got there, and like that's part of the whole, you know, resort thing. So she was probably having some alcohol. Witnesses said she was drinking alcohol when she arrived.
Okay. Well, don't they give you drinks when you arrive?
I don't know if like in Egypt it's an all-inclusive thing, or if you have to pay for them. But yeah, like in Mexico, when you're checking in, they give you like champagne, and
Ooh.
I love champagne, by the way. I do. Like, I'm not a big alcohol fan, but I love champagne.
Champagne.
Yeah, so she was definitely going to be drinking at least a little. And that's where she kind of started to act strange. And so maybe, you know, who knows what really happened in that bar while she was alone. It could have been nothing, but who knows? So she's looking for company. They also said that she would be really quiet one minute, and then the next minute she'd be dancing around and she was asking for her boyfriend. So that was interesting. And then that's when they began to start reporting her to the hotel staff. Up until that point, like most of her family, I believe, was saying that she was contacting them pretty regularly, and she was saying weird stuff. She was telling them, like, I'm in the room, come to the room, or something like that. Sending the messages was like, it seemed like she thought they were there, if that's in fact what she was meaning to send. Because then I start thinking about it as I'm talking about it, and I'm like, well, did someone else have her phone, or was she trying to send messages without saying certain things? Anyway, I probably could wait till later on all that. But, you know, it just seems odd that she was acting that way. She knew her boyfriend wasn't there, yet she was asking people, like, where's my boyfriend?
Yeah.
You know, she had just arrived without him. So it was around that time her sister stated that the communication with her suddenly cut off after she had been in pretty steady contact to that point, and that the travel agent from the company where she had, I guess, like arranged her trip, I think it was called Rainbow Travel, I believe. This travel agent, Mahmoud K, I probably did know his last name, and I just put K because I was like, I'm going to have hard enough time as it is. So he helped her during all this time. I thought that was really odd how involved he got in her like trip and her life.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know do travel agents typically...
Apparently so. Apparently that's not uncommon, at least in this area where people go travel. It's apparently not uncommon for your travel agent to kind of become ingrained in your trip. I would be like, I'm
Get
good,
out.
thank you. Yeah, like I didn't invite you on my trip with me, but
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess some people, and maybe it's the people that want to like tour around and do activities where maybe you need
a guide or something.
You know, just stay at the resort and relax, man. But regardless, so apparently this isn't totally uncommon, even though it seemed to us like we were like, what the heck is going on here? But he suggested that a doctor visit her, or she go visit a doctor, and she refused. And the article I read, and again, I'm translating this from Polish, not personal, I'm not sitting here doing this myself, I don't speak Polish,
right?
But the Google translator, so that's, you know, but it said something along the lines of that she took some medication to calm down from someone at the hotel who it said was a couple of doctors that were staying at the resort, which I'm like, I don't know.
That's
I mean,
convenient.
it's convenient, but also I wonder if that's even allowed anyway. I don't know. I just feel like that's a little strange regardless. That, I don't know. I mean, maybe you can treat people wherever, but I don't know. The whole thing just seemed kind of odd. If you gave her like, I don't know what it, like sedatives or what.
I think it's suspicious. You don't, like, because you don't know that person's history like you would at, like, a doctor's office where you
Right.
have a patient's history.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they were desperate, and maybe it was not that at all. You know, maybe it was not, they weren't doctors at all, and they're just somebody.
Yeah.
Who knows? All we have is what, you know, they've told the family and the media. So then they said that she began to spend more and more time in her room, and on Friday morning, some guests of the hotel found her unconscious at the foot of her door, you know, on the ground, kind of in a ball, face down, in her robe, right in front of her hotel room door.
Yeah. It was definitely like a fetal position.
Yeah. They got her into her room, and then that is when the hotel staff took video of her on her bed, supposedly, because you can't see her face, but it is a woman in a robe, and she's covering her face as she lays on the bed. Clearly not doing well.
Which, can I just say, I find that super weird. I've never heard of someone being in like a state of need for medical attention, and instead of calling like an ambulance or
Right.
whatever,
Yeah.
medical personnel, why, like, you're just sitting there recording her? I find that so weird.
It seems weird. So they sent it to the family. I don't know if I said that, but regardless, she definitely needed some.
Why don't you just call the family and explain the symptoms and ask, like, if she's had...
Well, they don't speak Polish, and so that is an issue. They could have, I don't know. I mean, it's odd. Oh, that's what I was going to say. For liability reasons, I wonder what the laws would dictate.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the other thing I was thinking was, in their defense, though I don't really want to give them too much defense, perhaps they see people a lot kind of in a bad way. If in fact the place is, even if it's not all inclusive, you can purchase alcohol as much as you want, but like, you know, all inclusive, I guarantee you that 2/3 of the clientele is going to have a rough hangover at least one day that they're there. And like the hotel staff does have to still come in contact with them sometimes, because they'll come to the room or whatever. Or even if you order room service, they'll come in and you're probably, you know, no, I'm not trying to act like I have firsthand experience with this or anything, but I'm just trying to think about all the angles here. So it's possible that they are used to people being in a pretty like hungover, feeling just horrible kind of way. But to the point where you find her laying on the front of, like, not even inside of her room.
Yeah.
That, to me, that's where you need to probably go to a doctor. You know, like, this may have reached a state where this lady it's continuing on further than you would allow, you know, or you should allow. But I don't know. I just don't know what they should do. But like, as far as just being good humans, I would, you know, to ensure the safety of this woman who's in a foreign country that doesn't speak the same language as anybody, I would hope you would still try to take some measures to bring her to a more safe place. But that didn't necessarily happen. So after the family received that video, her boyfriend Marcus booked her a flight for the following day for her to come home. And Mahmoud, the travel agent, he called a hospital in the nearby town of Port Galib, who sent an ambulance to retrieve Magda from the resort. But a Dr. Shaki said that she refused to get out of the ambulance when they arrived at the hospital. My issue I have is that the doctors all seem to say stuff that's
wrong.
Yeah, it's like, from all the video that they showed, when she went to the hospital, she was like walking in there, and that might have been the second time, but it just seems like their stories change a lot, you know, or it's just incorrect, or they contradict themselves a lot.
Well, yeah, with the video of her walking into the hospital, she's not even like fighting really. She kind of just goes in.
Yeah, and that's weird too, because another account says that they wheeled her in one of the times.
Yeah.
And I never saw that either. That's confusing. I don't know what's really accurate, because the people who are there are telling different stories. So that sucks for everybody involved, because how are you ever going to really know the truth? The doctor decided that Magda had mental problems, and his hospital was not equipped or staffed to handle the situation. So he sent her away, I guess. He just wasn't really willing to treat her because he said they weren't equipped to. And she was taken back to her hotel where she slept the night. And it was at 6 a.m. that the hotel staff noticed that she was on the roof of the hotel. And they said that she was approaching the edge of the roof multiple times. They had to pull her away from the edge twice where she was like dangerously close, but they didn't call the police or a doctor. And there is also no video proof of this either. But it is what they say. Either way, it doesn't make them look good if they were making it up. So either way, Mahmoud, a couple hours later, he collected Magda's belongings. He took her to the airport, and he says on the way there that she struggled in her car. She kicked the dashboard, screamed, flailed around, and at the airport in the terminal that she began to take off her blouse. So it was at this point that the airport employees started to take notice of her, and they ended up calling a doctor to the terminal to look at her, I guess, and talk to her. And they ruled that her behavior was too erratic for her to safely board the flight. So Mahmoud had to take her back to the resort where she had been staying because she now could not board the flight that Marcus had booked her. But that hotel would not let her check back into the hotel due to the problems that they had with her while she was there the first time, which on one hand I can understand.
Oh, yeah.
That's a lot of liability, extra work, trouble, disruption. Like, I can totally understand. But it just sucks that they couldn't just, somebody couldn't just put her in a room and, like, keep her safely in a room and then be able to maybe, I don't know. Because I also really don't know what caused any of this. So yeah, he tried to find her another place to stay, and one of the places was full. He took her to another place she refused to stay at. And so they were in the parking lot of one of these hotels when she began a FaceTime conversation with her boyfriend Marcus from Mahmoud's phone. So it wasn't her own phone, but it was his phone. It was 14 minutes long. She's not holding the phone. Mahmoud is holding the phone, and she clearly looks scared.
Yeah.
I mean, she's clearly terrified. She's crying. She seems like almost afraid to talk or answer certain questions. Not that Marcus was asking a diverse amount of questions. He was really just saying the same thing over and over, but,
Yeah, he kept just asking, like, are you okay? Tell me what's going on. Don't be scared. And, yeah, she's kind of, like, got her hands by her face and, like, trying to cover it at certain points or something. And I don't know if you noticed, it kind of seemed like someone was at one point trying to cover the camera to hide someone else's face.
Maybe.
Unless it's just like, mishandling of the phone. But clearly she's not in a good state, and she's not answering his questions. She won't tell him, like, where she's at, who she's with, or what's been going on.
I mean, she may not even know. That's the other part.
Yeah, exactly.
Because who knows what has gone on to her, and we'll get to, like, possible reasons for this, but on the call that she has with Marcus, she says a few things that are fairly disturbing, I would say. And maybe it's just, she's in a fit of psychosis and she's saying stuff that doesn't really make sense, but whatever it is, it's pretty ominous. I'm going to go over a couple of them. The first one is, they have different tricks here. Take me away from here. I don't know if she was making any sense or not, but having different tricks makes me think about, like, how she was being kind of carted around from place to place, and she doesn't know where she is to begin with. So anytime that she may be able to establish a idea of where she is, she gets taken to another place. And, and that may just be circumstances, or it could have been some sinister plan. She also says, I will not come back from here. And I find that to be just extremely ominous, considering what ends up happening.
Yeah.
So why did she even have that thought in her head? Like,
exactly.
That's
like, she kind of knew her fate, which... Why?
To me, I'm like, what was said to her or what was done to her to make her already feel like that's the case? She knew, she already knew it, well before it happened. And maybe, some may say maybe that is her knowing that she was going to kill herself, but I personally don't think that that's even what she was trying to even do to begin with in any of the circumstances. So she says, like, I cannot say I'm sorry. It will not do anything for me to tell. It was for her to tell Marcus what they did to her. I think it was what they did. What did they do to you? And she said, I cannot say I'm sorry. It will not do anything. I think she said something like about that she would call him from her phone. One of the translations said, I will call you from my highest. And I don't know if that was even just incorrect translation or what, but she did say something about her phone, like, I'll get my phone. And I don't understand why she didn't have her phone or why she wasn't using her own phone here to begin with. Maybe she just wasn't in the state of mind to be worried about her phone and didn't bring it.
Yeah.
Or does someone have her phone and that, I don't know. He's forcing her to only communicate through his phone. I don't know. I've begun to say I don't know a lot on every single episode. Is that terrible?
No, we don't know.
So then she also answers a question about who did this to her by just saying M.
Yeah, just the letter M.
Yeah, and who knows what that even means, if it means anything. There's a lot of people with the M name here in the story alone.
Yeah.
Who knows? But like I said a minute ago, Marcus and this whole call, he doesn't really do, it was probably stressful. I don't know. If he's totally innocent in this, maybe it was just like, he doesn't really realize it's going to be the last time he talks to her. I don't know. But he doesn't really do a lot to try to like get her to open up more or say something different to maybe make her feel more comfortable to say something to him about what's going on. Maybe he was just simply unable, but he just didn't seem to do anything other than just repeat the same thing over and over, which I thought was odd, just because it's like, come on, try something else if that's not working, dude. This is a 14-minute conversation.
Yeah, within that 14 minutes, I don't understand like what. Obviously you're not getting anywhere asking her the questions that you're asking her. She's not coherent or something. So like try a different method. And what bugs me is how, like, more people weren't freaking out about this, like odd, weird videos. I feel like if this happened to me, like Kevin would go like Liam Neeson on these people and like come after them himself.
Yeah. Well, you would hope. That always did, as I read about it, it always did seem like such a cop out that he's like, I sent my friend. I don't know. I would hope you would seem more concerned, unless you were just like, oh, she's having a mental breakdown, she's fine. Like, I just don't get it.
Well, yeah, but because it's weird. Going back to the whole passport thing, it's not like he couldn't have gone and tried to help her, because we actually researched and read that being German, all he needed was his Germany ID to get into Egypt. He did not need a passport.
Yeah.
So the story about him needing to renew it or whatever kind of goes out the window, and it's very suspicious as to why he didn't just, his family could have paid for, or her family, I'm sorry, could have paid for a flight to get him out there to help her. Something could have been done, I think. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like...
Yeah. I mean, he probably could have paid for it himself. I don't know. I doubt he spent his last penny on the plane ticket for her that couldn't be made. But,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, was there some plot that he concocted, or did this just happen to be like a misunderstanding that just ends up making him look really bad, or what?
Something, yeah.
But, I mean, there was a lot of people that look really bad, because there's a lot of people that had gone online to defend Mahmoud.
The travel agent, right?
Yeah. Defending his character after all this. Anyway, well, let's continue. There's also, like conspiracy theory Magoo over here. There are people that say that and then you go take a look. I wrote down the times for you, and I personally didn't see it as a lick of anything. But on this video of Magda and Marcus's FaceTime, at 6 minutes and 12 seconds and 11 minutes and 49 seconds, people claim that they hear her whisper very quietly that he raped me twice. And that's one of those things where I'm like, if it was just audio, I wouldn't even mention it, but there is video. I don't know. Go look. I don't know if anybody's gonna ever be able to really decipher if that's said or not. I didn't hear it. I didn't see it. I don't know if I'm just blind or what, but either way, I didn't see a thing. I just wanted to mention it because that's one of those things where it's like, go take a look for yourself and see if you see anything. Either way, it does seem creepy that after all that conversation where she is like terrified, she's crying, she looks scared to say stuff, Mahmoud comes on the screen and takes the phone away and says, it's a waste of time, I will be calling the embassy here in Egypt again. Okay. I don't know if he ever called the embassy, because that's one thing her boyfriend kept saying was, I'll contact the embassy, which I would hope in the situation that perhaps they could help, considering she didn't have anyone that spoke her language around, but I don't know if he really did, and it just seems odd that she ended up in a hospital that was inadequate to care for her, that had already pretty much refused to do that in the first place, like days before.
I don't know what the procedure is, but I'm pretty sure if someone's coming in with like having a psychotic breakdown, like how hard is it to give them a shot of Ativan and get them calmed down and just put them in a bed.
Right, that's what I had been thinking, was like, there are so many things it seems like they could have done, like that, for example, before they put her on a flight, and she would have been, I mean, I don't know, could you walk around? I don't know, maybe you can't, like, walk yourself. You can't necessarily put somebody to sleep and then Weekend at Bernie's them to a different country. That's probably not appropriate, but I don't know. It seems like they could have calmed her down enough to get her on a train or something. Sedated her enough to get her calmed down and safe to travel in some form. I would think.
I think so. It's a stinking hospital. Like, they have to have something. Come on.
I just can't believe a hospital could be that inequipped for a mental patient, you know?
Right.
It just seems weird.
Well, and yeah. Well, we have conflicting things about her mental state anyway. She apparently she refused to go into the hospital, yet we have video of her walking into the hospital.
Right.
What is it?
And that seems okay, just as with every other case that we cover where facts don't line up, that itself makes the whole thing sketchy as hell. You know? It's like,
right.
You can't have doctors and nurses that have the same story of events. It seems really weird. And it's not even that you have like little details wrong or different. It's she was refusing to come in, she was struggling and fighting, and then a video evidence proves that's not the case. Like, that just seems really like, why are you trying to make it out to be that way? Are you trying to make it out to be like she was just like this out of control individual?
I think so.
That sucks, because that
belligerent female.
Some belligerent female that's just going to jump out of a window.
Right.
Yeah. So the hospital, I mean, I don't know. The hospital seems sketchy. Real sketchy. Marcus asks Mahmoud to have Magda turn her phone on, but that never happens. And again, what is wrong with her phone? Why is it off? Where has it been? Did someone turn it off and not give it to her? Like, what's the deal with that? I would think that you would want your own phone. I mean, especially being in a whole other country by yourself. Like, I would be probably like, I need to talk to somebody, or trying to talk to every single person that was sitting at the bar. One or the other, or both. So, in the background of that FaceTime, there's a conversation between Mahmoud and some other guy that's going on in the background in Arabic, and according to the transcriptions, the men are mocking Marcus a little bit, and then they say, let her go to the hospital.
So, from what I read, I believe it's this guy named Maychek or something.
That's Marcus's friend that lived in
His
Egypt.
Friend.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah. So apparently he was there, and he was like drinking something while the conversation was going on, but he was supposed to be like concerned about her well-being, but he was like sitting back so casually in the video. I don't know. This is why it's like the letter M is so confusing, because there's so many men surrounding this case that have a first name that starts with the letter M.
That's what's so strange about this, is that what I read said that he then called that guy to come, and by the time that guy arrived at the hospital, she was already dead. So I'm not sure about that. Whoever it was, from what I read, it was really jumbled, but it almost sounded like they were making fun of his manhood. I don't know. It was weird. What I read, it was just worded really weird, and I don't think I wrote it down because nonsense.
Making fun of Marcus's manhood?
Yeah, like they were making fun of him, but...
Well, that's strange, because I did tell you that I read that there were rumors that he was gay in the first place.
They said something like, it's probably the size of a finger. It was something like that, and I was like, what else could they be talking about? But I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Either way.
This is why this case is so weird, because nobody's story lines up.
No, it really doesn't, but in that it's all being, translated, and it's not like the Polish police were able to go investigate the situation. It's all whatever, the Egyptian authorities and whatnot and prosecutors say. So Mahmoud then at that point, he took her back to the hospital after that FaceTime, to the hospital in Port Galib that he had already taken her to, who didn't want to treat her, like I said, and she ended up sleeping in the car on the way there. So she calmed down, was asleep in the car. According to the doctor, this is a different doctor now. At this time, she was so calm that they wheeled her inside, and she only woke up hours later in the bed that they put her in. But I never saw video of that. like we talked about a little while ago.
And I read too that they tied her down with towels.
Yes, they did tie her down with towels because
that is so, I'm sorry, that's barbaric.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, in a hospital, do you really not have something better? Even if you don't have a psychiatric wing of the hospital, would you not still have some sort of restraint somewhere for something? It seems like you would.
Yeah.
I saw this hospital. It's not like it was a shed in someone's backyard.
It was an actual hospital.
Yeah. Like, I just find that to be odd. And so that was one of those things where I was like, maybe it's a translation thing where it was just translated incorrectly, but I saw it in multiple different accounts. And I don't know, most of the time, if there were specific words used over and over, they were typically correct. So, okay, we saw the video of her walking in. What the hell are they talking about? Then they said when she woke up, she began to struggle, scream, and she tried to run. And the men said that they were afraid that she was possessed by a demon.
Oh, God.
So I'm like, is this real? Wait, is this, who said that? They said the men. I'm like, are you talking about, because that's another point of contention. Who are all these men in this hospital video? There's like some nurses for sure, but there's also dudes that are wearing like striped shirts and like corduroy. So I'm like, who are you, dude? You're not working at the hospital.
And if they are hospital staff, are they really going to act like they've never seen someone freak out before?
Right. I mean, everybody, even in hospitals that don't have psychiatric wards or whatever, you're still going to encounter some sort of.
Yes.
The doctor said she was very strong. Cool. I'm like, congrats, dude. I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah. Like, what's your point? Stop trying to make excuses for the poor way y'all handled this. So here there's a video of a portion of like some of this activity that goes on in a hallway at the hospital where it starts off where Magda is crouched on the ground and she's got, I don't even know, is it 4 or is it 5 men around her?
Let me look it up.
I can't remember if it's 4 or 5.
It's 4 to 5 men.
One woman nurse, she's on the ground and they're all hovering over her, which I don't know if all these strange dudes that don't speak the same language as her crowding around her and towering over her is the best method to go about trying to calm her down.
Yeah, so she runs, it looks like, out of a room, down the hallway a bit, and she's pursued by the man in the plaid shirt. And that's where she goes to the wall, crouches down in front of that window.
Yeah.
And she gets up and tries to come at the man in the plaid shirt, actually. And another man in looks like a blue plain shirt grabs her. She's back on the floor. And that's when the lady doctor shuts the blinds. And who knows, there's a lot of speculation about that, but it could be just that she didn't want to disturb the other patients or people in the hospital.
Honestly, my initial thought on that whole blind thing was that Magda got tied up in the cord that you use to pull the blinds up and down, and that lady came to pull it off of her, and in doing so, pulled it at an angle, and so it made the blinds pull down instead of go up.
Right.
Yeah, I could be wrong. That was just my initial thought. That's like, whenever I first saw it, I thought that's what was going on. I didn't think about it in any way of like she was trying to close the blinds. Because I don't even know if she's on the second floor, there's no one to even see it, so.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
Well, you gotta think, so what's also weird about that video is when that one man looks behind him, puts his arm up, and kind of tries to block, because she ends up on the other side of the hallway in front of the camera, and he's trying to block the view of the camera.
Yeah, it was really weird.
Well, eventually they all grab her. They got 4 men, 1 on each arm, 1 on each leg, so she's being carried off.
It's
disturbing.
It's just not the kind of way that you would expect a hospital to handle a patient, but also, I mean, I don't know if they really knew what the heck to do, but you would think they would know that wasn't it, because that's really scary.
Well, then why didn't the hospital staff follow the men? She walks away the other way as they carry her off.
Well, they claim that was the hospital staff, but from what I found out, at least the one guy who she lunged at in the plaid shirt or whatever was somebody that was working with Mahmoud at the travel agency. But there are other accounts where the hospital people say those were all hospital staff, but I'm calling BS on the corduroys.
When have you ever walked into the hospital and seen staff wearing a plaid shirt?
That would be not going on.
You need to know who the staff is in case there's an emergency. BS.
Yeah, it is BS. And I don't know why he leaned over like that. Like, he was literally leaning against a wall with his left shoulder, with his right arm stretched over his head.
He looked like Lloyd Christmas in Dumb and Dumber when he bent over at the bar. It was such awkward body language. Yeah. It was obvious he was trying to do something.
It's definitely it was definitely suspicious as hell. I was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I had watched Brain Scratch with that guy Lord and Arts or whatever.
That guy is amazing.
Yes.
If you guys, shout out to him. I hope he listens to us one day.
Yeah, he has really good episodes. So anyway, I had watched him and he had mentioned that too. And I was like, oh my gosh, that definitely is so suspicious. And I mean, it's also possible it's just some weird movement this guy did, but in that tense situation where I'm sure anybody there that was trying to handle the situation was kind of feeling like on guard and ready to, make a move because she was ready to attack or whatever they're saying. And they were so scared and everything. Why in the world did he do that? It would just seem like
it was weird.
The only thing he could be doing was trying to cover up her from the camera or whoever was behind them.
Right.
I was like, maybe she was taking her clothes off. That's the only possible thing.
Well, because she comes flying out of that room. So clearly she's uncomfortable with something.
Yeah. Was that guy in there or did he come? Does he come out of that room?
Yeah, he comes after her. He's trying to grab her as she's running.
But so when she's running out of the room, he's in the room behind her?
Yep, he comes directly out from behind her.
That is
weird.
Yeah, weird.
Well, the guy that's covering the camera, everybody else except for the guy covering the camera comes out of the same room area as she did, but he comes in from the opposite direction, like he was standing maybe guard in case this happened. And then he's covering her. He's on her back almost, grabbing her and holding her down.
So she was eventually subdued, and they put her in a room on the second floor, which there's another... Unless there's no rooms on the first floor, I don't really understand that move either.
Yeah.
Primarily because they claimed when she was lunging at that guy that she was trying to jump out the window then, which I don't think that's the case at all. She was looking clearly like she was lunging at that dude.
Yeah. There's so many problems with the theories that are like almost trying to protect these people from...
Well, that's what happens in every damn situation.
I know.
You got some people are like...
they're innocent.
Yeah, dead set on just defending people for some reason. It's like they want to just blame people so badly for dying that they take the side of somebody. I'm like, huh? Like, what? Okay, we don't need to go on that tangent. So, put her on the second floor. That was dumb in the first place. And they said that because they were worried about her previous attempts, they tied her wrists and ankles. That's with the towels. So, they also said they put someone on guard with her 24/7 because the sedatives that they gave her weren't working, which...
What kind of, what are they giving her? Sweethearts? I don't get it.
I
They're
don't
like,
know.
Here's some sixlets. Hope you feel better.
Like, just some sleepy time tea.
Yes.
I don't get it. Because it also contradicts other accounts where they said that they sedated her to the point where they were able to, move her around and she didn't wake up. So I don't know if she was sedated or not, or if it was working or not. You would think, does this hospital have nothing there but just people in rooms? Because
yeah, what are they? Band-aids and stethoscopes.
It's just like a paper doll hospital.
Yeah.
So, according to the female nurse, later that night, Magda freed herself and after a few seconds of struggle, jumped out of the window. And this kind of is another one of those things where I read a few different stories, a few different versions of this, and she sustained serious injuries from her fall, but she was still alive, and they transported her to another hospital, which was 30 or 40 kilometers away.
If you're already at a hospital, why do you have to go to another hospital?
Well, now I will say this, that there are certain, I think it's called trauma level, like 1, 2, and 3 or something, where certain hospitals are not equipped for the level of trauma that you might have sustained. So then you have to be transported, essentially dead, to transport her to a hospital that was equipped to handle her.
No kidding.
That's what I want to know.
This hospital is not equipped for anything, it seems.
Clearly not. Really, it's a Band-Aid hospital. So she eventually did die from her injuries that she sustained from the fall from the window. I don't really know what to say about that other than I don't think she was trying to commit suicide here. I think if she did willingly flee from the window, it was because she was so terrified that she was trying to escape in any way, and the dangers of that were not outweighing the dangers she felt inside of the hospital room.
Well, the injuries that she sustained too are super conflicting, which is a fall injury, especially from such a short distance.
Okay.
They said that they more coincide with somebody getting really badly beaten.
Oh.
Rather than just jumping out a window.
Weird.
And when I was trying to look up the stupid autopsy, not that it's stupid, but it's super frustrating when it's not all in English.
Well, did you even really find an actual autopsy? Because
I didn't.
I was going to say, they don't even really have...
No, an official report.
Yeah.
They never put out an official report. So I don't know if this is true or not, but there was speculation, I'm going to say speculation, that she died from collapsed lungs from her fall, which I'm like...
Well, I can understand that if you punctured them with like a broken rib.
Yeah.
In that case, that could make sense. Not that I'm a doctor in any way whatsoever, but, you know, I do think that it's possible. And I'll say this also. I found an interview with a lady named Anna, that was from Poland, and I really cannot put these letters together to form a word. So I'm not going to say her last name, but she is a woman named Anna. She and her husband had stayed in that hospital in Port Galib in according to them, the exact same room that Magda had stayed in. And they said that the hospital had very few women, which we saw in the video. It was mostly men, and that there was a very serious language barrier that resulted in extremely poor care whenever she was in the hospital. She said no one spoke Polish there, and as we know, Magda didn't speak English, so I'm sure that added a whole other element of just terrible handling of the situation with her. And obviously they speak Arabic, but I think that in these tourist places, they generally can speak a good amount of English in order to communicate.
Right.
Anyway, what they said was that the window in that room would take extreme effort to jump through the way they claim that she did, and that unless no one was around her at all and she had all the time in the world to do it, which would still be difficult, it would have been extremely difficult for her to get out of that window without someone stopping her, if in fact someone was watching her, as they said that someone was.
Right. Well, it's kind of weird. I was on my dog walk today. I passed by this 2-story house, and of course I got to thinking, man, it's a ways down. Like, I definitely wouldn't do it as something just to do.
Yeah.
Stories is pretty significant, you know?
Yeah.
But could you survive that fall? Totally. If I was trying to jump out to escape something, I don't think it'd be so high to where if I really did fear for my life, like, I probably would do it and just try to do that whole tuck and roll type deal.
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like if I were to jump out of a 2-story window to end my life, I would probably try to, like, swan dive it.
Yeah. Ugh, yeah.
I don't want to think about these things, but...
Well, obviously, but, you know, we are talking about it, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the view from the window that she jumped out of?
No.
It's like some concrete stairs, and it's just a lot of concrete, essentially.
I don't think this is what she was trying to do, honestly.
Yeah, I don't really either. Like I said, I think there are a few options of what happened here, but I don't think she was like, I'm trying to kill myself. I think that if, in fact, she herself put herself out of that window, which is up for debate, then she was like, I gotta get out of here. We could be wrong.
Well, and wasn't there someone in the room with her supposed to be watching her?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If someone was in there watching her, that window is not so easy to dive out of that person wouldn't have been able to stop her, which is why I think they're trying to make all these points about her being so strong and stuff. They're saying, which who knows if this is true, they're saying that the one female nurse is the one that was in the room at the time. I don't know if that's true or not, but so then maybe it makes it seem like she overpowered her and dove out the window. I don't know. So, like we said, the hospital staff's version of events, they were all different. They've changed multiple times, and it's pretty easy to contradict a lot of the statements that they made just by watching the surveillance video that was released. There was a former cop, Darius Novak, which isn't a hard name to say, but it's just spelled with like a bunch of extra letters, so I'm like, told a Polish publication that in his experience, it is someone who has been traumatized or victims of a crime that act the way that Magda had reportedly been acting. And there are various reasons that she could have been traumatized or been a victim of a crime, which we will now start discussing the investigation part of it. The investigation into the death was handled by the district prosecutor's office in I don't know. Is it Helenia Gora? I'll just say it that way, and if you know it's not that, just forgive me. Under the supervision of the National Prosecutor's Office. There were 150 witnesses that were interviewed from the airport, the plane, hotel, hospital, the travel agency, maybe a few other random, I'm sure probably family. Well, maybe not family, because they weren't there. From what I found via the translation, her body had been mummified prior to being sent to Poland, so they were unable to do a second autopsy independent of the one that was done in Egypt, which stated that she died from injuries resulting from a fall from significant height. According to the Egyptian autopsy, there were traces of psychotropic drugs in her system, which her sister is adamant to say, which she stated to the Super Express International paper, that her sister did not take medication for depression, and if she did, there would be proof of this in Poland, and there is not. I saw a lot of conflicting information about that. Like, some said that she had depression, and if in fact she did, she had been prescribed medication, and if she wasn't taking it, then that adds a whole other element into this situation. But
if that
I don't
was
know.
the case, it's possible that she could have been kind of embarrassed by it, so maybe she didn't tell her family.
Yeah,
But
it's possible. Or it could also be medicine that was given to her by people
Exactly.
at the hotel or the hospital also.
which would make sense, because didn't they say that they gave her some sort of like tranquilizer, but it didn't quote unquote work?
Right. Whatever was said, whatever really happened with the people at the hotel that were supposedly doctors that gave her medicine, I don't know. Or if that translation was trying to tell me that a doctor came and gave her medication at the hotel, perhaps, but I don't think that's what was going on. So she did attend a group for children of, kind of a support group for children of alcoholics, similar to like Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. But that's the extent of the official, like what her family and whatnot tells us about her mental health before this incident. So the family claims that they learned the details of the autopsy report through the media, and they actually were not given this information from the Egyptian authorities, which that sucks.
I know. And okay, I don't know how long it takes to mummify a body, but it kind of seems like the Egyptian investigators did this like really quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like one of those things where I think they're pretty quick to be like, it looks like a duck, it's a duck, you know? Not to start a whole other tangent, but to me, it's personally like how Kurt Cobain's case was handled, where it was like, oh, he killed himself, okay. And, actually, there have been some other incidents that have gone on in Egypt. In June of this year, a man named Marcin M, that was the only name that they were given. And I'm sure Marcin is not how I say it, but it's how I say it, unfortunately. Traveled to Egypt with his girlfriend for a trip in Hurghada. And his girlfriend and the rest of the family say he was like super excited, in love. He had no financial troubles. While we know sometimes family doesn't always know all the details of everything, it did seem to everyone and his girlfriend who was with him that everything was fine at the outset of their trip. So this is kind of just a side story here, but a few days into their trip, he began to feel unwell one day at the hotel pool. And he began hallucinating and experiencing paranoia and having panic attacks. He was covering his face up a lot. He didn't want to look at people. He was treated by doctors and seemed to be doing somewhat better. And then one night at dinner with his girlfriend, he suddenly got up and ran out. After some time, his girlfriend convinced the hotel to do a search for him, and he was eventually found hanging from a cable in an empty building next to the hotel. And I'm not trying to say that, okay, we have 2 deaths, 2 mysterious suicides going on in Egypt, in the entire country. There's something going on here. But I just thought that was slightly interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, these are both people that, according to everyone that was around them, didn't have a lot of issues with suicidal tendencies or thoughts. I know it is possible that a psychosis induced from sustaining an injury or brain trauma, as well as from ingesting drugs, which you could be doing willingly or unknowingly. We know that happens quite frequently all over the world, in the United States, everywhere, that people put drugs in people's drinks,
And I was going to say, Magda actually was successful at such a young age. She owned her own beauty salon. She was very well schooled in like cosmetology, and she was actually furthering her education and going to school for nutrition and dietetics. She was gorgeous to boot. She looked like a model.
Yeah.
But then again, you never know what's actually going on inside a person, so you cannot judge someone by their outer appearance or like how successful they are.
Yeah.
But I mean, your entire family says that you have a good track record of mental health, and I think typically when someone has a sister, they seemed pretty close. I don't see why she wouldn't have maybe told her sister if anything was going on, but that's just speculation. But
yeah, I mean, it's possible that she didn't, but it's also, these are supposedly the people that knew her best, but maybe not. I mean, I know she was close to her sister. I don't know if she was super close with her parents necessarily, but anyway, I'll stop going off on stuff I don't know at all. And, there's even some psychotic episodes that can be triggered by simply traveling to a foreign place. So there was this thing Shai and I discussed earlier called Paris syndrome, where your idea of a place is one thing, and then when you go to that place, you experience kind of like a culture shock, and it's not quite what you expected maybe, or, whatever.
That was me at Disneyland. Sorry. I was like, oh.
You were just like, eh.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how I would be too. Everyone's always like, you've got to go. And I'm always like, that's the last place I would go, I think.
Yeah.
Truly.
I don't know. I'm sorry if you love Disneyland. I just was not hecka stoked.
I'm not into that. More power to you if you are. So, like Shai said earlier, she actually had been to Egypt multiple times.
Yeah, this wasn't a new to her.
No. And I don't want to keep talking. I'm like, I went on vacation. But I went on vacation. And I was thinking about it, just putting myself in that position because I went to Tulum, Mexico. So I'm in a different country, even though, everybody speaks English. So that's generally some English. So that adds more of a level of comfort. And I understand some Spanish a little bit. So we communicate just fine. But then I was thinking if I was there by myself, even though it's the greatest place ever and it's so relaxing and amazing, it would be depressing for me to be there. I said that earlier, I think. It would be depressing kind of, I feel, if I was there by myself, especially when I didn't really plan it to begin with.
Right.
And that's with people who I'm comfortable with and can speak to. I can see how if in fact like maybe somebody did spike her drink because they wanted to do something to her or use her in some way or whatever, and it caused her, or maybe she even took something willingly, it's also possible that she took something that she either brought with her that she got from someone. I don't want to exclude all the possibilities here because all the factors combined triggered something terrible.
Right.
I just can see that. I don't mean to drone on about like anything really, but I can see how that could happen. Even in a place where you are somewhat comfortable and you've been before, I can see how that would be like, oh, there would just be some aspects of it that would just be unsettling and lonely, which would lead to kind of making you a little more vulnerable, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
And we all know when you're made more vulnerable than others or than usual, there's always some sleazeball that's there to take advantage of it, it seems. Well, not always, because I'm sure we've all escaped some terrible thing also when we've been vulnerable, but, Anyway, this behavior could also be from perhaps like a blood clot or a brain bleed that sometimes happens with plane rides. Plane ride, is that something that people say? When traveling by plane. And witnesses at the hotel said that they saw her drinking a lot of water, but eating very little food, which that definitely sounds like either drug consumption.
I think it sounds like a hallucinogenic type drug consumption.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. But they said that she behaved aggressively. She had convulsions. And once again, is that a translation thing? I'm not sure. And they said that after periods of hyperactivity, she would be incredibly drowsy and listless, and then she would later return to that aggressive behavior. So it does very much sound like some sort of side effect of maybe drugs, but also it could be just
like a manic episode.
Yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint, what exactly it was. So there's this paper, the Gazette Krakowska, and they said that neither police or prosecutors had been able to access Magda's phone because they couldn't break through her iPhone security, which I find that to be a little sketchy because, at this point, don't all police have isn't there some...
There's a way.
Forensics? Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's fairly simple, too, for, the Apple geniuses to do that for you, especially if it's, the police requesting it. Come the heck on.
You would think so. That, it's just one of the other details. It's like, what? They said her death certificate shows a time. It was a time that was different from what the Polish authorities were told. The family states that they received zero help from the travel agency, which had been so involved with her while she was there.
Exactly.
And the Minister of Justice also did nothing to help them. This is another weird aspect that I really tried to look into more as far as where it was found, what exactly had Marcus been saying, but according to a paper called the Gazette Klauska, months following Magda's death, police officers found her car with the license plates removed. And I was like, okay, obviously that's in Poland, I guess. Yeah. And that's weird. Why would her car be found somewhere with the license plates removed? In the article I read, they were adds a whole other element of, suspicion in the case. And I'm like, what? Because that makes me think the boyfriend is sketchy.
Personally, from the get-go, I'm going to be completely honest, I do. Because what's really weird is more on like just how weird, how many ties go into this. So Marcus did know Mahmoud. They were like friends, right?
Which, yes, okay, but I also read that's not true. But is it or not? I don't know.
Oh,
I really don't know.
So apparently, so Marcus was also friends with a man named Camille, and they call him Golden, is his nickname. And he was the boyfriend of a former model who coincidentally committed suicide in Poland. And strangely enough, Golden was calling Marcus as he talked to Magda.
Oh.
So they're saying she didn't really want to go to Egypt in the first place and that it was kind of like forced upon her. And from what I have gathered from what she said, her words are clever kind of like gestures and suggestions that she was like being imprisoned, transported to the hotel for like quote unquote purposes, and at the end of which she probably was made to understand that she will not return to Poland. And again, her boyfriend Marcus had another friend, the Maychek guy or Masiek or whatever. And that's what I was saying. Like, he was so interested in this conversation that they were having that he was just like calmly sitting back, sipping a beverage or whatever. And then, there's speculation about another person there who filmed Marcus's conversation saying, like, don't get too much info on her. I don't know. It's just like, who is innocent and who is not. But I do think her boyfriend is highly suspicious, and I think it's very strange that he has a friend who has another model-like girlfriend who just killed herself.
Yeah, that is definitely weird.
Well, like, all these people involved supposedly deactivated their Facebooks too after this whole incident.
Yeah.
But conveniently put out a video on the internet to serve as their alibi.
I don't know, man. It's weird because I'm like, that definitely looks suspicious, though I can understand, like, if you're getting, because I did read him say, and the Mahmoud guy said they were getting all these threats, like 1,000 threats a day, so they deleted all their social media, whatever.
Yeah.
Which I can understand, but I don't know. It's weird to me also, like, I don't understand. Well, okay. So Magda's sister spoke to this paper and said that it was, okay, so this is like the latest news I could find was really from this past month and a few months prior, and they weren't ever really that informative of anything new. It was mainly that her sister was saying to this paper in Poland that it's been a year since her sister died, and they had yet to receive official autopsy results or other important documents regarding her sister's death. They just hadn't been sent to Poland yet, which I'm like, a year later? I don't understand. So her sister says this is proof that Egypt is hiding something. Obviously her sister is going to be emotional about the situation. Obviously you have every right to be. If you're not trying to cover up something, you're doing a really terrible job of making it look like it, if that made sense.
Right.
They did receive a preliminary report that stated that Magda's body showed no signs to indicate that there was violence against her. Only injuries sustained from the fall, which was the entire left side of her body. Which you said all the injury to the left side of her body was more indicative of
like a beating.
Yeah, of a beating than of a fall out of a window.
Yeah.
Or a jump out of a window, like you said.
Yeah, like if you were trying to kill yourself, which I hope you never do, I think you would try to like jump out in a way that would more ensure the task. I don't know how to put this lightly without sounding like a jerk, but like maybe a swan dive of it, or possibly just kind of like falling forward.
Not like just rolling to the left side of your body.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Because there, like we said again, there was no, which I find so weird that there's no official report that came out. But again, they said, the cause of death was most likely collapsed lungs from the fall.
Yeah.
Which you said could have been from like broken ribs, which would definitely make sense. But she didn't die instantly.
No, she didn't.
So she died from injuries sustained. But I do feel like, they weren't being kind to her whatsoever, which I get, like, if someone's freaking out. But then again, they weren't hospital staff. I swear to you, there's no way they were hospital staff. Like, they were not trained to deal with a psychotic patient.
I don't know.
So I don't know.
And really, like we had discussed, like they handle her fairly aggressively, and she is being aggressive according to their statements. And so I find it hard to believe that her body didn't have signs of trauma, even if even beyond the fall or the damage that she sustained to the left side of her body, the way that she was acting, supposedly, and well, I mean, we see some of it, but in the way that they handled her I would think have resulted in some bruising at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, like how could she not have some signs of violence on her body? I find that hard to believe. So that the fact that they are like, she was, pristine except for there's this one area where she landed. I find that to be like, what kind of story are you trying to sell me here?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of just goes along with the whole story they're trying to sell, that she was so strong that she outstrengthed everybody. Outstrengthed. It's not even a term. Everyone in the hospital managed to get out of this kind of hard to maneuver window in order to kill herself. So what did happen to Magda? There are multiple theories. A lot of them can be broken down into like some sub-theories, but the first theory is that she killed herself. Okay, so she meant to she went to a different country on vacation and in a matter of days decided to end her life there.
Right.
I personally think that's not the case, but that is the official ruling. So in the area of Egypt that she went, this has been a popular area for tourism in the past and has been struggling recently. So it would definitely not be good PR for them to have a beautiful young Polish woman coming to the country by herself for travel and dying or being murdered in their country. So that does, whether it was a suicide or a murder, it doesn't look good for them either way, and that could perhaps explain some of the weird ways that the Egyptian prosecutors and authorities have handled this. But at the same time, it does seem like there's so much weird stuff that it's almost like they're trying to cover something up. Now, Shai's favorite theory is the boyfriend theory.
Because even like when you listen to him in the video, he sounds stupid. He keeps calling her honey and baby, like repeatedly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which I've heard a million times from many people, but in that situation, you're trying to get answers from her. How is that going to happen with you saying baby, baby, baby over and over?
Yeah, I think he's a creep. And, I went on a rant earlier about it too and about his creepy friends as well, but like looking into statistics on sex trafficking, which I think is probably, at least in my opinion, what was happening here. Egypt is actually a known source, transit, and destination country of human sex trafficking. And in 2017, it was placed as a tier 2, which there's tier 1, 2, and 3. So it's right in the middle. And what that really means is that the country's government does not fully comply with the TVPA's minimum standards that try to prevent these types of things from happening. But they're saying that they're trying to better the situation there.
Uh-huh.
And I just thought it was interesting that places in South America rate a 3 and like Oceania and Eastern Europe rate a 1. So those are like the safest places. So that was like a rabbit hole I was going down to.
Okay, I was looking up what TVPA meant, and it's the Trafficking Victims Protection Act.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Also, I know that when it comes to that whole theory, that there is a lot of back and forth between Poland and Egypt and its citizens and everyone concerned with this case and other cases that have happened, that, some of the claims from like, especially people in different, it just depends on like the article I read, but in different articles, different commenters, there's definitely, it can start to get racist. I feel like what's new? That happens in every freaking case I think I've seen in some way or another. But it does start to get a little racist. So yeah, and it's really, it's hard to say what happened. She may have very well been drugged in Egypt by herself and to be used for sex trafficking. So what Shai, you're saying your theory here, you're thinking here is that her boyfriend is involved in sex trafficking and like lining up women to be taken to different places, and Egypt is one of them.
I do, yeah.
And she was part of that whole plan. And do you think she knew that, or?
Well, it's hard to say because she could have been an escort for a while, and this was just an instance that had gone bad, or he could have met her through his line of work or whoever, and recruited her without her knowing, and this just happened to be the worst case scenario where everything and anything goes completely wrong and they had it.
Well, I mean, one might say the worst case scenario might be being someone's sex slave.
That's true. Okay.
That, and maybe it's possible because like we talked about earlier, her saying on that video, "I'm not going to come back from here," which is the most just tragic and kind of terrifying thing, in my opinion, about what she said in that video.
Well, I think it's weird too. Her boyfriend was never like, "Hey, go to a separate room." Like, can't you call me when you're alone?
Yeah, that is suspicious.
Call me in private instead, please. And
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least that we saw. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like she's only allowed to talk to her boyfriend with this guy around, these other people around. That's definitely very suspicious.
Yeah.
So another theory that's similar but slightly different is that upon her arrival to this resort, someone drugged her or abused her in a way that induced a psychosis, and in her fear that was induced from the psychosis and paranoia from, that perhaps even could be justified if that happened, especially that, being paranoid about like people being around you after somebody's done something to you like that obviously is completely warranted. She thought, and maybe we already said this, but she thought she was in such grave danger that, which it does appear that that's how she felt on that video when she said, "I'm not coming back from here," that her only option was to escape out of the window, and whatever happened from that was less terrifying to her than whatever was in that hospital room with her, or whatever the idea of what was coming next was to her.
I know this is like super dark, but I will say I would probably rather die than become someone's sex slave.
Well, 100%. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's less terrible. I mean, it's awful, but it's less terrible than being carted around the world to do stuff for a bunch of sickos. But I mean, that may not even be it may not have even been that. It could have been in her own mind. She was so terrified because they were treating her like shit, and she was really emotionally unstable and mentally unstable, and they didn't know how to handle it. And the way they handled it made it worse, and she was terrified and jumped out of a window. Still, I don't know. And then, another, in my last, at least that I wrote, theory, is that someone just legit murdered her.
And then threw out the window to cover it up?
Yeah. It's like threw her out the window. Which is possible. I am, I kind of like start to question, okay, if Mahmoud did something or he was in on this in some way, why, if he wanted to just take advantage of her and kill her eventually, why would he keep taking her to the hospital at all, But maybe there was a plan in place. Didn't go quite as they had hoped, because maybe they were just hoping, if I slip this whatever to her, she'll just be, barely conscious, and I can do whatever I need. I can take her where I need to. I can do whatever. And she ended up going just ballistic, and they were like, "Oh, she's too much trouble at this point. Let's just kill her." That's possible. It is.
Okay, so she's Polish, and I don't know her religious background, obviously, but I don't know if it would pertain to tourists and guests or anything like that. But Mahmoud could have been just like her male chauffeur, because I know the women in like Islamic religion, they require a male chauffeur to be outside of the home, no matter what they're doing. I'm not defending him.
Well, maybe. I mean, I know lots of Muslims that live in America that don't have those rules, I guess. But so I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I just don't know. I think that either way about it, their cultural differences definitely contributed to the handling it really badly, and that's like in the hospital when she's so scared and there's all these men crowded around her. There's like one woman,
That's what I didn't want to bring up though, is how like different they treat women over there.
It's also hard because I don't really know how it is in Egypt. When I worked in Dallas, I had a ton of Muslim clients, and before that, I'd never really met anybody who was Muslim or practiced Islam, and I had a bunch of ideas about what I expected them to be like, and it wasn't like that at all. And so I think like in any religion, there are different like sects sects, you know what I'm trying to say, of that religion, and that they adhere to different rules, but in traditions and whatnot. And so obviously in America, there are going to be people who have lived in America and have got,
Accustomed.
you know, have blended their customs into less traditional Islamic customs. But also, you know, I don't know what it's like there.
Well, working at bodybuilding.com, we would always get like chats and stuff, like people from over there. And all the time, if it was a male, they would ask, are you man or woman? And, you know, woman, doesn't matter. And they would always request to speak to a male instead, because they would say, like, men are more knowledgeable, or you can't help me because you're a woman. And it's just...
Yeah, well, yeah, that sucks. I don't really know what to say about it, because it's like a whole other world, you know? And so, but I know actually people who live in the UK who have traveled to Egypt for like a beach holiday and had a great time. So, and I see that a lot. There's like people with bad experiences, and there's people with really great experiences. And I think that's the case with anywhere.
My friend just got back from Morocco. She took a solo trip and said it was like the most magical time of her life.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it really just depends. And I think that for me, in my opinion, unfortunately, I don't know that I will say like that Magda was in the midst of an emotional breakdown before she left. I think it's possible, but I really do think that something, my personal theory or my opinion about what happened, is that something untoward happened to her once she arrived in Egypt, once she arrived at her resort. And whatever happened to her caused her to freak out, well, obviously.
Yeah.
And that, like I've already said a million times, I don't think that she purposely killed herself, as they're trying to state. I think somebody is responsible for doing something to her that caused her to behave this way and be in this mindset, and they are ultimately responsible for her fleeing through the window if they didn't throw her out of the window. So I really don't know. And I think that you really can't say. I think the fact that there's so much conflicting testimony from the hospital staff itself, and then also that they're claiming these other people as their staff when they're clearly not, is weird. And just the whole thing is probably a conglomeration of them trying to make themselves look like the hospital, the resort, the country, trying to not make themselves look bad. And so they're shaping this investigation into something that they want it to be.
Well, can you imagine how much business you lose?
Right.
If you were suspect of housing sex trafficking victims,
like, this
or
is what happens.
Whatever happens.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just one of those cases where we'll never really, at this point, be able to tell you what exactly happened or know what exactly happened. But there's enough hinky details to definitely make us question the official story, which to me officially is BS.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. So it's a sad one for sure. I hate to think that a case is being investigated so poorly and that a family is left without any answers, but it does definitely seem to be the case. Though I personally also would like to just not preface this because it's at the end of the episode, but I would like to conclude this by saying that I don't want to make this episode and make it seem like I'm like, never go to Egypt by yourself, because that's really not the case. People were like, don't go to Mexico, you know, like you're gonna get murdered. There are ways to hopefully prevent, you know, yourself from encountering violence. We, living in America, live in a very violent society and are in danger of being victims of violence all over the place. So, you know, no other country has, I mean, there are very few. There are some who have more violence than others, but we should all be able to safely travel. So that's that. Hopefully, you know, I would definitely love to see some more actual documents that were delivered to the Polish authorities. As it stands, it's just like a bunch of nothing new at all.
Right. It was hard to find a lot of like groundbreaking information on this case.
Yeah. So, okay. Thanks for listening, everybody. That's the conclusion for now of Magdalena Zuk. So as far as us at Creep It Real are concerned, we have had like a little explosion of growth in the past week or so. That's been really awesome and exciting for us to experience. So we appreciate you guys like big time. Everybody that has mentioned us in any group that they are part of or to anybody that they are friends or acquaintances with. We appreciate and love you. You are, the only way that we are going to reach new listeners and have, new people hearing the information that we're giving you is by spreading the word. So thank you so much for every positive review that you have given us. If you gave us bad reviews, a pox on your house. I don't appreciate it at all. But it's okay.
It's like you're not everybody's cup of tea.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. We're not everybody's cup of tea, but if we're not your cup of tea because of audio quality, just give us a little time, you bitch.
Or try it, okay?
Okay. Anyway, so but more on a more positive note, we are so thankful for everybody that has really made an effort. We just had our first 10,000 listener. Or no, not 10,000 listener. That will be nice. Our first 10,000 download giveaway that we did, and a great new fan named Morgan won, along with Brittany and Abby. All of you are receiving a Creep It Real gift. And so yeah, super excited. We are truly and officially putting together a Patreon campaign so that we can kind of bring some extra content to you guys, and in turn, hopefully get some support to help us more easily and efficiently do what we do, because it is a lot of work, and I never really talk about that part of it, but it's a ton of work to research and make sure that you're not leaving anything out, and inevitably you're always going to leave something out, and put these episodes together for you guys. And so we'll hopefully get a little support in the mix, so that will be really cool. We'll bring, we have some really cool ideas, I believe, for what we'll give you guys whenever you donate, if you choose to. So that is on the horizon in the next, I've said it before, I think, but for real, we have been legitimately planning this. So that's on the horizon. I have some episode ideas already for extra episodes for you guys, and that are going to be Patreon only, and it should be pretty cool. So we are just looking forward to continuing to grow, and hopefully next year we'll be attending some conventions for this stuff. So that'll be pretty awesome. But anyway, okay. So thanks for listening. Is there anything that you'd like to say, Shy? I've been rambling.
No.
Okay. You're like, we have talked plenty. Okay, so, all right, guys. So we appreciate you. We will talk to you next week. Pretty sure we got another true crime story for you. So creep it real out there, guys.
Stay creepy, y'all.
We'll talk to you later. Bye.